Compare 4 intros that create an eerie theatrical tone with just the voice, all drawing inspiration from Michael Jackson's song, Who Is It? Michael Jackson's Who Is It starts off with just his voice, a distant, almost sacred air. It builds tension without revealing its full hand. Now let's listen to the intro of The Weeknd's Every Angel Is Terrified. That same cryptic energy, but that's dialed into a full-on sci-fi broadcast. Now Lady Gaga's Government Hooker. It's MJ's cathedral-like atmosphere gone cyberpunk, rigid, old mystery through orchestral vocals. Now before he sang, he danced. Michael Jackson didn't just move to the beat, he was the beat. But Mike didn't invent those moves out of thin air. MJ studied the greats. James Brown gave him that fire. Fred Astaire gave him the glide. The Nicholas brothers gave him the finesse. He absorbed decades of dance history and distilled it into something that felt brand new. He turned borrowed rhythm into visual storytelling. Even the moonwalk, his most iconic move, he didn't invent it. Its roots trace back to the 1950s when Cab Calloway and later performers like Bill Bailey were seen doing a version of it known as the backslide. Street dancers like Jeffrey Daniel of Shalimar refined it in the 70s, gliding across the floor in ways that made people question gravity. But MJ, he perfected it, made it look effortless, refined every detail. And then he dropped it live on national TV.
This man is literally out here dancing with the nose job tape on. You would almost look at this and say, wasn't The Weeknd inspired by the Michael Jackson era where he kept wrapping his face up with bandages? You could almost say that. And then the red jacket, synonymous of what? Thriller. And After Hours is what? Probably The Weeknd's the biggest album that he has. It's literally all right there. The breadcrumbs are all right there. Sometimes we have to stop and say to ourselves, maybe history does repeat itself, or it rhymes. Better yet, I don't know. I'm just here being the messenger, giving you the message, guys.
1983. In that moment, it stopped being a dance move. It became a myth. This was a dancing machine, MJ. The kinetic lightning bolt, a master of rhythm, sharpness, and control. And now that torch has been passed. Chris Brown's footwork, he fused Michael's dangerous era with the crumping style from the mid-2000s. Chris Brown has even been compared and referred to as the modern-day Michael Jackson, along with Justin Bieber in his early days.
He's everyone's inspiration. Like everyone, whether you're a country artist or you're a rapper, most people look at Michael Jackson as one of their top inspirations.
But let's be honest, that's a crown that will never be touched. Now let's look at Usher. Usher is the closest to Michael's era and is probably the pioneer of the modern MJ trend. That way he does his iconic glide, it's MJ with an Atlanta twist. Now Atlanta also gave birth to another Jackson-inspired star. If Usher is Michael, then Ciara is Janet. She channels Jackson's precision with a fresh, athletic intensity, like his footwork reimagined through a modern female lens. Because Michael's music is mainly focused around R&B and disco, we can draw many comparisons, but let's look at a couple of direct influences. Thriller is arguably the greatest.
Damn, that jacket. God, see, bro. That jacket is so nice.
Album of all time. Now let's listen to The Weeknd's Wake Me Up. Now this one is a more direct replica of Thriller. So much so that The Weeknd and Justice had to give writing credits to the songwriter of Thriller, Rod Temperton. It has spaced out chords, similar drum programming, and a bass line that walks with that Thriller confidence. And lastly, we have About Damn Time by Lizzo. Listen closely to the guitar riff, clean, rhythmic, and undeniably funky. A clear callback to Rock With You. Then you layer in that lead synth at the end. It walks the same line as MJ's glossy disco era production. Both tracks don't just lean into funk, they float on it, using minimalist elements to create maximum groove. Rock With You was a slow burn love song to the dance floor, and Lizzo's track revives that mood with a modern.
Now, here's another point that you can make about all of this. You could say, yeah, of course they're stealing from Michael, but when it comes down to pop music works on the idea of it has to be formulaic and it has to be recognizable, because you only have about 6 seconds for the listener to be like, do I like this or do I not like this? So to make a hit, you have to have elements in your record that are what you call recognizable. So if it's recognizable, if it's something that you've already heard before, you're going to be more comfortable in listening to it, which then allows for repeatability and also shareability when it comes to the record. So a lot of things when they're doing it, they're just taking things that have worked before and re-implementing it now. So they're just doing what you would say when I say work on other people's framework. Instead of reinventing the wheel, just work on what has already given people success and just replicate the same thing.
Modern twist, celebratory, confident, but still grounded in that same musical DNA. Now, Mike wasn't just a performer. He was a romantic, a balladeer. The soft boy MJ was the man behind the moonwalk, sensitive, dreamy, full of yearning. And that part of him never left. We see the same sensual sensitivity in Neo, who can sing a heartache like a velvet blade. And JT rides that same sweet falsetto wave that MJ carved decades later. And Drake? Well, Drake is many different people in one, but when he's in his soft boy mood, he's channeling Mike too. He uses MJ-style vulnerable vocals and makes them colder, moodier, and more detached. Like the soft boy reimagined through a modern filter of emotional restraint and melodic rap.
He is the greatest entertainer of all time, and that's what you have to do. You know, you have to push yourself, and he pushed himself further and further. Did things that I can't even comprehend, like choreographed dancing and, you know, all instruments, like playing instruments, everything. I mean, he was just, he was the greatest.
Neo leans into it the most with his dance moves and even does the Michael vocal sound effect. But JT keeps it sweet and raspy, similar to Michael's ballads.
He really was and always will be, you know, the king of pop. To create the things that he created with his music, I mean, it's really untouchable.
Now, speaking of ballads, let's take a look at the biggest soft boy ballad of all time, Human Nature. Now, there's something about Human Nature that artists just can't seem to resist. It has to be the most sampled song of modern day history. Songs like Right Here by SWV, Chris Brown's She Ain't You. But what makes it so iconic? It's the sonic softness. The synth pads are airy and glassy. The guitar is delicate and tucked just behind the beat. And MJ's vocals float over everything. Now let's look at some obvious examples. Now, I promise this isn't a Weekend video, but I'll be ignoring the elephant in the room if we didn't talk about I Feel It Coming. Yeah. This song is one of the clearest examples of MJ's sonic fingerprint in modern pop. Laid-back groove, silky falsetto, and warm analog textures all echo the atmosphere of Human Nature.
I always use Michael as, first and foremost, as a vocal inspiration. And Off the Wall was definitely the one that made me feel like I could sing. I found my falsetto because of Off the Wall.
And we can go one step further and listen to Bruno Mars's Versace on the Floor. Both songs build their mood with soft, suspended synths and smooth, gliding chord progressions. The pacing is patient, the arrangement is minimal, and the vocal delivery is breathy, intimate, and precise. Sabrina Carpenter is also not safe from the Michael bug. In her song Bedcam, she also took inspiration from Human Nature. Take a listen to this. It's not a sample or a copy, but this is what you call interpolation. Basically, when you take a piece of music, you move it around and twist it in a different way to where it's not the same, but it just kind of encompasses the same vibe of it. And she does this perfectly with Bedcam. Now, even though this next song we're about to talk about is not a ballad, it also taps into that soft boy era. I'm talking about that sweet, happy-go-lucky vibe of The Way You Make Me Feel. That crazy shuffle you hear in the rhythm section, you hear it again in The Weeknd's In the Night. You also hear it again unexpectedly in Ed Sheeran's new song, Azizim. Now, of course, I would be a hypocrite if I didn't call myself out for this. Here's a clip of my song I released a few years ago called Biggest Fan. So you see, I'm Michael, you're Michael, we're all Michael.
This is not a bad thing. Realistically, yeah, he becomes the center point of what comes to people reinterpreting that's essentially, we're all children of Michael when it comes down to it, right? Because even Michael Jackson was the one that told Kanye West he could sing to give us 808s and Heartbreak. That validation for one of the biggest pop stars is what allowed us to have 808s and Heartbreak, which then allowed us to have Kid Cudi, Drake, Big Sean, you know what I mean? It goes on. So you need that starting point where it's like, yeah, everybody was making music, everyone's making music, but then once you get to Michael, and then it all stems out of there. You can even, someone could be like, oh, well, what about someone like Prince or this? And it's like, coming from that same era, you could almost, you'd have to, like, Michael Jackson's star is so bright, it envelops Prince. I'm sorry to say it, dude. But it's like everything, it's like music is all the way up to Michael Jackson. And then after Michael Jackson, it's the rest of us. That's all I gotta say, bro.
When Michael stepped on stage in Bucharest,
this whole entrance right here is a Beyonce. This is Beyonce did the exact same entrance, the exact same outfit choice.
It wasn't a concert. It was like a praise and worship session. This was the rock star MJ. Loud, political, drenched in leather and surrounded by fire. He fused pop spectacle with rock aggression. Think about the guitars and Beat It, the military jackets, the snarling vocals in Dirty Diana, and the sheer theatrical violence of Scream. His message was massive. His energy was explosive, and his influence still very much alive. Let's start with Lady Gaga. Gaga took MJ's sense of spectacle and gave it teeth. Her performances are more than concerts, they're rituals. Songs like Marry Tonight and Bad Romance walk the same line as Dirty Diana. Glam, tortured and defiant.
I'm such a huge fan. I love him so much, like I knew him, but I didn't. And he was such an inspiration to me my whole life, and I really feel that the world killed him.
Now we gotta talk about the most controversial artist on this list. I think he's losing his mind right now, but We gotta talk about Kanye West.
Yeah, I sat with Michael Jackson. I met him over Leonard Cohen's house, and I just vibed out with him. And then, like, I think Michael would want to put that battery in my back to do 808s. I played Good Life, and he was like, "Who's that singing right there? I like that voice." It was my voice. He gassed me up. Next thing y'all know, y'all have me in the night here. I was like, Michael Jackson told me I could sing. All y'all.
Kanye may have started in soul sample hip hop, but his evolution into genre-bending performance art mirrors MJ's rockstar ambition. Albums like Yeezus and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy didn't just blur lines between rap and rock; they exploded them. And when Kanye performs, it's not rap; it's an arena spectacle. Like MJ, he doesn't just perform, he provokes. And no matter how hard he crashes out, the world just can't seem to look away. Now let's take a listen to the MJ rockstar sound. Mike's song Beat It was a crossover explosion, a pop song with a rock soul, gritty guitars, driving drums, and a guitar solo from Slash that cut like a knife. Now let's listen to Miley Cyrus and Dua Lipa's song Prisoner. It has that same energy, that same sense of urgency in the vocal delivery. The songs are even in the same key. Big chorus, sharp vocals, all following that MJ formula. So Michael's legacy isn't frozen in time. It's active, ongoing, embedded in the DNA of today's biggest stars. Some channel his sound and others echo his image. The mystery man, the dancing machine, the soft boy, the rock star. Honestly, these artists aren't copies. They're continuations, each one adding a new verse to the story that MJ started. So the next time you find yourself vibing to your new favorite song or really loving that new artist, ask yourself, does it feel familiar?
Yes, it does. This is what Tate McRae.
You might just be listening to Michael Jackson.
There it is, guys. You heard it here first.